world. So happy to see you all, guys, because today I'm with Lincoln again. Our gorgeous Lincoln. This is a really long time, Lincoln, that we didn't see each other, isn't it? How are you?
Yeah. It's been over a year. I've been doing very, very well. Yeah, life has been very good for me. A lot of big changes. I'm very happy with my life. Yeah, thank you for asking.
That's the most important thing. Yeah, we were just like talking, and we said, oh, we have to start with the interview because there's so many topics that we talk about that can be so interesting also for the audience. So we just said, okay, let's start. And we just, it's really funny. Anyway, I'm really happy to see you, and I'm really happy that you came to my show again.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
I've got all these questions from the people. I mean, a few questions, not a lot. There were not a lot of questions. Um, I'm going to tell to the audience there's some questions I'm not going to ask because I don't want to. Um, well, you guys know what is happening with all these YouTube channels, and I lost already different ones, so I don't want to lose even more. So there's some questions we're not going to talk about. I prefer. You understand that, Lincoln?
Yes, I understand. Yeah, and I think my audience will understand also.
Yeah, they definitely will. So let's start. I've got a beautiful question for you, Lincoln. And that is, I would like to know, where do you come from? Where is your soul from? Which planet are you from?
Well, I look at it a little differently than some other people look at it. And I think that's just based upon the experiences that I've had. So, in my own life and in my own spiritual journey, I've always been interested in knowing truth and experiencing the consciousness that I am, and also the consciousness that's creating this reality. So as I look around the world, I see there's lots of different ways that we explore ourselves and our reality. And sometimes people are more form identified. So they embrace, like, this lifetime, I'm this type of person, I'm identified with this culture or this race or this religion. So some people are very form based, and then that can carry over to other lifetimes. Like, I'm a Pleiadian or I'm an Arcturian, because they're very identified with form. That was always kind of the opposite characteristic that I embraced along my spiritual path, and just that I kind of understand because of my experience. For me, I know myself as a formless consciousness. So I don't really compute identifying with a temporary form. I remember lots and lots of lifetimes. I can go looking at my different lifetimes on the earth, on different planets. I can recall them. I can, like, revisit them, see them in my mind, and project my consciousness into them. So I recognize I've had many lifetimes on many different places, but I don't identify myself as being from one of those places because it's just somewhere I visited. Like, I'm visiting the earth experience. I'm projecting my consciousness into this body, and I'm giving myself all the qualities of this lifetime. And they're going into my consciousness, and I'm remembering them, and they're shaping how I live my life, and they're shaping other lifetimes I'm having as well. But I don't identify as being from any of these. So I would express it as, well, I live in the present moment. I am the consciousness having this dream of life, this multidimensional, multi-incarnational experience. And all of it appears within me. And the forms are always changing, and I'm interacting with those forms. So to make it a little more concrete, right? When I go out of body, for example, and I free myself from this human reality, and I go deep enough, I realize that I go into an experience that is fitting my understanding. And that understanding includes who I believe I am, and what I believe life is, and what I want to experience. So I go out of body to a deep enough place that I don't feel human at all. I feel just like this spacious intelligence. And I can look into different lifetimes, and I can
Mhm.
understand that those lifetimes are manifestations of different qualities that I want to experience or that I believe are true. So everything happening in my life is a demonstration to me of these deeply held ideas that I have about reality. And then those ideas, they play out the forms. So if I want to experience certain characteristics, I'll go to a different planet if that planet has those characteristics for me. And it's not like I'm shopping around. It's not like I'm like thinking,
Shopping.
what brand of clothing do I want to wear because I want to have this
Okay.
experience? No,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
universe takes care of fitting me naturally. So I'm in an understanding, and the reality I have matches that understanding. It fits itself naturally. Like, I don't think I want to be a Pleiadian this lifetime. I want to be an Arcturian this lifetime. For me, that's not how I perceive it. When I'm in that deeper non-physical state, the understanding I have just starts shaping the reality that I'm experiencing, I'm projecting myself into.
That's what I always say, that we create really our reality, and everything what we see really is a projection from what we have inside, because it's not reality. It's just
Mhm.
something that we are projecting there. Because if you don't feel that way, then you don't really want to see it when you move in your life, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so for people who can't get out of their body, maybe it's more difficult to see that, to understand that. I always say that because people always talk about energy, energy. Oh yeah, energy is like this, energy is like, but it's not so easy. You know, lots of people, they want to understand, they don't understand.
Yeah, I think the desire has to get built into action. It's not enough just to want something. The more you want something, the more that desire expands into a physical experience. So you think about it, you make choices to have physical interactions based upon that desire. So we have to honor the desire for what we want. When I look at human beings and I watch and I observe and I notice myself as well, the more I desire something, the more I spend my time and my physical energy creating that desire or acting from the place of that desire. So sometimes people say, well, I want enlightenment. And I say, well, that's great. So how many hours a day do you meditate? And they kind of laugh, say hours. Like I might meditate, 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes at most, and I miss it most of the days. And I say, well, okay, well, then you don't really want it enough to actually make a lot of progress. If you really want it, then the desire will be so strong that it'll flow into your life and it'll change how you spend your time. Now, the challenge that we have is we have habits inside of our body. The body's been conditioned by past experiences and past information. So the body's acting out its old patterns. And like you mentioned earlier, we have to break through those patterns because that's what we're really working up against. So everybody wants happiness, but how do you express that desire for happiness in a strong enough way that it overcomes the resistance of the conditioning that doesn't want happiness, but that wants to be lazy and have an easy life or veg out on a television or just get lost in your phone with social media? Right? There's physical conditions that we're working up against. So the big answer to your question is we have to develop the ability to be aware of ourselves as that consciousness. That's where all the change comes from. So we have to work staying in that state of self-awareness. And for me, I learned it by practicing Zen meditation. So I learned how to just be the awareness with whatever was happening. Some schools of meditation, they think, control your breathing or breathe through your nose. But I often see that the person practicing those doesn't break the bond of form-based identification. So for me, I started my spiritual journey trying to understand myself as consciousness by perceiving it, by feeling myself as an empty container, by being aware at that deeper level. That's what I wanted. So that immediately started to untie my attachment to my thoughts and my feelings in my body. That type of practice gives you the advantage then of witnessing your mind and your emotions and then interrupting any patterns that you see happening and also replacing those patterns with things that you'd rather think, feel, or do. So for some people, they don't break that core identity and then they think they're the body and they're squeezing their muscles and trying to draw energy up their spine and holding their breath and hyperventilating. It's like, and they're suffering the whole time. And it's like,
Yeah.
I can do those things too. And I can create the physical experiences that holding your breath will have or hyperventilation will have. They're physical experiences. And some of them are fun. Some of them are just, okay, that's what it
Yeah,
does.
exactly.
But if I know myself as consciousness, I'm not struggling at all. I'm exploring my body and what happens when I change my breathing or move energy, and I'm free as the consciousness while I do it. If you don't build that foundation of being the consciousness, you think my enlightenment will happen when I don't think for 60 seconds, or if I can raise my kundalini and purify all my chakras, then I'll be happy. But along that whole journey, you're form identified, you're going through these ups and these downs because you're in the forms, you're being the reactions. You haven't found yourself as something beyond the forms yet. So that key
Yeah.
piece is really knowing yourself as the consciousness and practicing that. So I began practicing meditation. I would meditate as often as I could. And I also educated myself. So I read the best spiritual teachers that I could, educated myself for about 3 years or so. Then I stopped educating myself and I just practiced and I lived in that state of awareness as best I could. So that was my method. And I think that made a huge, huge difference in my ability to then create the quality of life that I wanted. Because I've seen other people jump from this practice and that practice, always form-based, and they seem to struggle more and never experience that peace and that liberation that allows them to then enjoy life and create the changes that they want in a different way.
I think it have to do also because they put a lot of expectation in there. So you see, if you do it and you let it come to you and you open to the universe, whatever they give you, because one needs a week to do it and another one that needs 10 years to do it. I mean, as long if you don't put if, like you say, if you put all your energy and all your intentions there, it will automatically grow and it will give the time that you need this to expand. That's for everybody different.
Yeah, we suffer because we try to control things that we can't control. So we try to control how long something's going to take. Well, sorry, you can't control that.
Exactly.
You can control what you put into the process. You can control how you think, feel, and act. So if you realize that's what I can control, but the other things I can't, you let go of those other things, you let them just happen on their own, and then you focus on what you can control. So I can control being aware, my breathing, that'll calm my body and mind. As I develop more consciousness, I can then control my emotional vibration because I actually can feel how I can move and change energy. But before that, maybe I can just control my breathing. That's all I do. Maybe I can stop what I'm saying when I don't like it and then replace it with something positive to say. That's what I can control. Maybe I can't stop my thoughts or stop my voice from saying things or stop an emotional reaction, but maybe I can interrupt it once I notice, oh, I don't like that. So I start there. So I work with what I can do. And if I keep focusing in that way, I'll improve and I'll be able to catch my patterns earlier on in that process of expression. So I interrupt my thoughts, I interrupt my emotions, and I get back to that place where they no longer express themselves from the beginning. And that's then the deconditioning of all of our patterns and our karma and the ego structure. And you're right, we cannot control some things, and that stresses us out when we try to. So if someone's feeling stressed, usually they're focusing on something they can't control. They're blaming other people, they're blaming the world, they're trying to fight against other things, they're blaming God, how long it's taking, why isn't it happening? And they're stressing themselves out. In the process, they're feeling disempowered. Instead, focus on what you can do and just add that to your life. You'll notice you create changes. You'll feel more empowered. You'll feel happier. You'll feel more connected to life. You'll expand more into life. Everything will improve when you're just working with what you can work with right here. And it's a journey. Everyone's at a different stage in the process.
Yeah.
Just honor it. Don't compare. Just honor it. Work with what's present. Just do the best you can do.
The best that you can do. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of patience also. And it's like you say, you can't control it anyway. There's patience. And then one day,
let it happen. Let it happen and stay engaged. I often tell people we need to have a balance between patience and perseverance. So perseverance is going towards what we want, and patience is allowing it to come to us. so we learn both skills. We learn both skills. So how can I go towards what I want, doing what I can do, but then also allowing things to come to me? It's this balance of patience and perseverance.
Exactly. Wow. That's really interesting. And in fact, I wanted to tell you, so how do you clean if you really you cope with a difficult situation with emotions or sensations or whatever happened? If something happened and you didn't like it, for example?
I just make a correction. I don't blame myself for what happened. I don't get angry. I take responsibility for myself. No one has control over me. I never blame anyone else for what I'm thinking, feeling, saying, or doing. So I take responsibility. This is me. This is what I put into life. That's what I can control. And I don't shame myself for anything in the past, but I try to improve upon it. So if I make a mistake, I correct the mistake. If I hurt someone's emotional feelings, I apologize. I try to make amends, then I move forward with it. I don't dwell in the past. I don't reject the past. If I find an area of improvement, I go for it. I go for it right then and there. I don't try and delay it or put it off. And I just, keep moving forward in a very direct way. So for myself, I very much live in the present moment, working with what's here. And if that's your intention, to work with what's here, you learn not to avoid things, deny things, procrastinate, not to project onto other people what is really your responsibility. Just by living your life in the present moment, trying to create the best experience, the universe teaches you how to live in these healthier ways.
Exactly. The universe always gives you the best from what there is.
Yeah, it's helping you to grow. Yeah. See, for me, I don't really feel at all like a victim. I don't feel like anyone controls me or my life. I have the decision about what I want to do, and I take responsibility. So people might invite me to cooperate with them. And I realize I have my power to choose if I want to cooperate or not. If they invite me out to, say they invite me to a restaurant and I really don't want to go to that restaurant with them, right? I don't eat the food. It's not an enjoyable experience for me, right? But I go along with it anyway. I say, yes, I'll go to the restaurant, and I go against myself, and then I have a really bad time. Most people, or some people, would blame that person. Oh, you ruined my night, or the restaurant ruined my night. And no, it's like I was given a choice. I made the choice.
Exactly.
I'm the only person I can blame.
It's
Right?
your
I'm the one
choice.
responsible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm responsible for every choice I make, also what I think, feel, what I speak, what I do with my actions. So the more I accept that self-responsibility, the less of a victim consciousness I'll have, the more I'll realize no one controls me. But that requires a lot of self-awareness and a lot of self-empowerment. Because if you realize you're the creator of your life, like, it opens up a whole new way of living. And that can be challenging because you can't lie to yourself anymore. You can't blame other people. You can't escape your life or run away. If you're sitting in a puddle of muddy water, you're the only one who can pick yourself out of it. You can't curse the world and say, you ruined my life, you put me here, and wait and cry. And, you can't act like a victim anymore when you take responsibility for your life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's challenging, but it's so rewarding. Yeah, it's really important. Yeah. And with the relationships with other people, we all express emotional energy and we all say words. We can't control what another person says or feel. We're going to notice their feelings and words, and we have to have the empowerment and the awareness to respond consciously to them. So sometimes people say, oh, you energetically polluted me, or you lowered my vibration. That's not true at all in my experience. You may have put a lower vibration into the environment, and I felt it in the environment, like changing the temperature of a room, right? Like you turned up the heat in the room, like you put stress in the room, you put toxic energy in the room. Yeah. And I also regulate my own temperature.
Exactly.
And I can choose to leave the room. I can choose to take off an article of clothing if I'm hot, or put on an article of clothing if I'm cold. I can choose how to respond to that. I'm not going to get angry at you for turning up the temperature in the room or creating your own emotion, because I'm going to realize that's the best you could do. That's all you could do is your personal best in every moment. That's my knowledge. And you did your very best. Maybe it wasn't that good. Maybe you're not happy with it. Maybe it was stress or sadness or anger. You turned up the temperature. Maybe you regret it later on, but that was still the best that you could do. So I respect that. And I take a responsibility and say, okay, I have to do the best I can do. So should I leave the room? Should I leave that relationship, leave that environment of emotional energy? Or should I adjust the temperature myself? Because I can express freely into the environment. So I can calm someone down who's angry. I can pick someone up who's sad. The environmental energies don't control me. And a lot of people think that they do. We have to wake up more and realize, no, I'm going to perceive it, but I get to choose how to respond to it. And that second part really is important. We have to recognize our own free will and our own power to respond to the situations we're in.
That's very important. Exactly. I know all these questions, the audience, they're going to like this, because this happens every single day, that we have people around us and they're not honest and they lie and they try to cheat us in one or another way. It can be from the most insignificant thing to something really important, or they're not really honest in their feelings. Or how do you cope with this when they lie to you and they lie?
Yeah. Well, I still recognize that that's the best they can do. So maybe in that situation, the person's afraid and they think that if you knew the truth, you would not love me. Or they would think if I told you what I really thought, you would reject me. You would fight with me. You'd think I'm not a good person, or I wouldn't get what I want. If I told you what I really want to do, then you'd be upset with me and we'd have a bad time together, right? Because maybe you want to go somewhere and they want to go somewhere else. We do this all the time, where people compromise or they hide things because they're afraid of what would happen if they're truthful and honest. But the more we wake up, the more we evolve consciously, the more we realize that we are all different, but we have to honor ourselves and honor each other with our differences. It doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong. It just means that we see things differently.
Exactly.
And that's a whole higher level of relationship, and it's with ourselves, with other people. How can we be honest with what is and face to face with what is and not be ashamed of it or not reject it? So when someone lies to me, I don't take offense to it. I don't get angry at them, because that's where they can be in this situation. That's the best they can do. They're afraid of something. They're ashamed of something. There's a reason why they have to deny the truth of what is, because the truth is threatening them in some way. And for me, truth is liberating. So at my level of realization, truth is liberating. If I'm just honest, I don't have to deal with all the stress of hiding things and trying not to be caught. And it takes a lot of energy to keep up an illusion, to keep up a fraud or a false representation. So truth is liberating, and truth is what is, and you feel so open and free. But they don't know that yet. They haven't realized that yet. So for me, I have compassion for someone who lies, but I also don't get pulled into the lie. I won't agree with it because I might be afraid they won't like me unless I agree with their lie. No, that's me not being honest. That's me lying to myself. Right? So how can I be honest with myself? Yeah. How can I live an honest, authentic life? And when it comes to someone else in lies, it's going to require you to sometimes be stronger in your state of honesty. When I see people lying, and there's also repulsive energy that I naturally feel. And this is true with any sort of emotional alignment. So if I like the color red and you're wearing the color blue, and I don't like the color blue because I like red, I'll be repulsed from looking at you. I'd rather look at red and not blue, right? So in life, we're attracted to things that are similar, and we feel we feel pushed away from things that are different. Yeah. So if I'm an honest person, I won't feel compatible with dishonest people. I won't want to interact with them. I won't want to talk with them. I want to be around them. And it's not a logical choice. It's an energetic relationship. If I like sweet things and not salty things, I'll buy a sweet drink. I won't buy a salty drink. It's just how it is, and it's a natural alignment. Okay. So if we trust this natural alignment, we'll move away from people that are dissimilar to us, and we'll move towards people that are more similar. But at the same time, the universe, this greater intelligence, in order for us to grow, might still pair us up with things that are different than us, because exposure to difference creates growth. Exactly. So the goal of life is not always to be around happy, loving people. Sometimes we try to escape the world and go to a spiritual community. I want a community because life's too hard and the world's not the way I want it to be and things are unfair. So this utopian spiritual community, let's go build it out in the woods. And it's this illusion. People think that's how I grow. That's what's in my path. There's a lot of reasons, or there's a lot of people rather, who've tried to create these spiritual communities and they fail to happen. You can't meet enough people. You can't work on it. You can't fund it, because sometimes it's people trying to avoid the challenges in the world. But it's those challenges, it's those differences that help us to grow and awaken. So the person who lies to me is helping me to become more honest, compassionate, caring, kind. It's helping to awaken all these wonderful qualities in me.
That's fantastic. So we will ask everybody to lie then.
No. That'll give me a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. And when you feel hurt, how do you clean that?
I only feel hurt in very rare situations. Exactly. And that's when I know the person consciously tried to hurt me. Okay. So sometimes people's ego, like you have a reaction and you say something mean. I don't feel hurt by that, because I realize that the consciousness of that person, like the soul of that person, didn't want to hurt me. They were reacting to a situation that was threatening to them. So I'll feel their anger in that, but it doesn't actually hurt me, because I realized they didn't want to hurt me, but they did hurt me because they reacted subconsciously. So it really takes a lot for me to feel hurt by someone. Yeah, they have to want to do it, and then it's painful, especially if it's someone you love. Like, why
Yeah,
would you do that to me? Like, why would you want to do that?
exactly. Yeah,
But actually, the more that I grow in my life, the more that I live here in this human reality, the more I realize that consciously, no one's really trying to hurt each other. It's usually our fears and our reactions of
exactly.
limitation that cause the hurt. So that's why I said it's extremely rare that I actually get hurt by anyone, because the soul just wants to be happy and be in love with life. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so when people do cruel things, it's very, very rare. I can't remember the last time I felt hurt, hurt by someone.
So when it hurt us, it's something that we need to clean up. It's something that
Mhm.
we need to heal. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Because if you have it healed or you don't really have problems inside with you, it won't ever affect you.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's challenging in life because we all have desires. So, like, I want to be, for example, in a relationship with someone who loves me and cares for me, but sometimes that person might hurt me. And so, how do I honor my desire for something and then respond to not getting what I want? And that's challenging. I think that in human life, we have to honor the emotional communication that naturally happens. And then at the same time, try to evolve our communication. So if I feel hurt from someone that I love, how can I understand this experience in a higher level? Because that'll change my response. So, like I said with you, the more I understand everybody's doing the best they can do, when I look at life, I realize no one really wants to hurt another person. It's usually from a deep place of conditioning that's been traumatized with fear and shame and guilt. We all just
Absolutely.
want to be happy together. That's what we all want. So,
Mhm.
when I took my understanding to a higher level, then my relationship quality changes. I don't feel as hurt from the person that I love when they do something I don't enjoy. So instead of like saying I should never feel pain and trying to stop the pain, no, pain is a natural part of the process. Let it be there, but try to understand the situation at a higher level. Try to see it with more wisdom, because
Mhm.
then you ascend the emotional response. Far too many people, I think, try to like, I'll never feel pain. I'll stop my mind from thinking. They try to avoid one half of an emotional communication process, and you can't do it. You won't ever find the perfect relationship in which there's only one half of the emotional spectrum, right? In order to have happiness, you have to have sadness. But you'll find people who know how to live in a higher level, honoring happiness and sadness, but knowing how to create happiness and choosing happiness. They don't ever fight against sadness. They're not trying to avoid sadness. They just look and see both are connected and I'm free. So how can I create more happiness? And when sadness does come up, usually they have compassion and they allow it to be and allow it to change. They don't shame it, resist it, fight it, try to stop it. They transform the experience, but they don't fight any part of the experience.
Exactly. This is the thing. We have to transform really this and embrace really the experience because I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't learn what sadness is, you don't know what happiness is because
Yeah.
the universe always looks for this balance.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
if there's no darkness, you don't know what's the light. If the light would just exist, how do you know what's darkness?
Hmm. Yeah. The light can't exist without its opposite. Everything we
Absolutely.
perceive has opposites. Yeah. And then as we wake up, we realize I'm the clear consciousness that's beyond all form. And I have the potential to create any type of darkness, any type of light. What do I want to create? So we
Exactly.
create from a liberated place. Instead of being identified with the forms, trying to push away the darkness to get more light, I free myself. I know myself as a consciousness and not as the form. I create with the forms. That's what we do as God. I create with the forms. I want to choose this creation. And then we go on that journey of creating it. And it's still going to have opposites because everything's like that.
Always.
But
Yeah.
we're still able to choose where we're taking our life.
Absolutely. And I mean, because lots of people, they used to ask me, and how do I clean all these negative things inside of me? You know, if I feel these negative feelings, anger or sadness, or because I say also, you can be sad, and then, I mean, and then you allow to be sad, and then you clean it up, and you just go forwards again, and it can come back, and it can come back because we all like really like onions and there's always layers and layers falling off but there's always new ones coming on. I mean, it's
Mhm.
not that there's new ones coming on because there's always more and more layers that we have to clean out. And so lots of people, they ask me, so what would you say what's the best way to just clean negative emotions and transmute them in positive emotions?
Yeah, I think the best way is going to be different for different people because we're all going to live at our own level of awakening. So what
Exactly.
works for one person might not work for another person.
Yeah.
I think the best thing to do is learn how to consciously interact with your reality, learn how to create with what's in front of you, because then you'll start seeing what's actually changing. I think the purification process is different for different people in terms of what's the best thing to do, where's the best place to start, because we all function on different levels of awakening. So for someone, maybe a physical process is very helpful because that's where they're at. That works the best for them as they perceive it happening. So if I'm more physical based, maybe go for a walk. That helps to release stress from my body. Maybe do some yoga, some breathing, some meditation. A physical activity might help to release the negative energy, the stress, the chaos, the fear. It helps me release that energy by moving it. Motion is really important. So if you think about it, you get stuck with a feeling. It's like something happened to you and your mind won't stop thinking about it and your body won't stop feeling the emotion from that experience. It gets
Yeah.
stuck. So what do you need? You need movement. You need motion. Go for a walk, right? Look at a beautiful sunset, right? Do some breathing practices, do some yoga, stand on the earth barefooted. All of these things help to move your system. So when you look at the sun, for example, you're receiving light that comes into you, that creates movement. It's light coming into your eyes. When you stand on the earth, there's vibration, there's ionic energy coming up from your feet into your body. So we need to unstick things, we need to move things along. Rather than rejecting it and thinking it's bad, think about how can I add something that creates movement and change? Because that's what we want. We want to change it.
Exactly.
From my experience, the reason why everything happens is because life is perfect. So if something happens that lowers my vibration, for example, I don't want to blame it and say it's wrong or it's bad, because then I'm working against the genius of life. I think that the intelligence creating all of this failed. It made a mistake. It did something wrong that shouldn't have happened. My human mind is not more intelligent than the universal intelligence that's creating everything and designed everything. So I never think something is bad or wrong or out of place. Instead, I accept it and I try to work with it. So by creating movement or by adding energy, that's very helpful. Sometimes people just like to have conversations. You have a conversation with a friend, that can be very healing. If you find that you keep repeating the same low vibration, like you keep suffering in the same way, then there's a reason why you keep creating that experience over and over again. So maybe you're in a toxic relationship and you know it's toxic, but you don't know how to change it. Maybe changing it is introducing a new communication style with your relationship partner or friend. Maybe it's leaving the relationship. Maybe that's the solution. You can either change it or you can leave it. You can take yourself out of it or put yourself more into it and change it. So if we accept that this is here because I'm creating it, then we work with it. And that creates the change. A lot of times, as soon as we label something as bad or wrong, we start resisting it, and that makes it harder to change. We should instead realize I'm creating this situation somehow. How can I add energy? How can I add movement? How can I help it to change and grow? So we never reject. For myself, I've never once, not a single time, put protective energy around myself. I never felt I need to protect myself from something bad, never once. And I go out of body almost every day when I channel for people. I do meditation work. I've never had that desire to do it. I've never done it. And I've never once had any bad energies come into me. I've never had any entities or ETs or negative things happen to me. Not a single time. And I think it's because so fully I know that everything is God. Nothing is bad and wrong. Nothing needs to be removed from this place of attack or aggression or threat. For me, it's all God and it's infinite in nature, and I'm just being shown different vibrations. And I just desire higher vibrations. It doesn't mean the lower vibrations are bad or wrong. The toxic things are not bad or wrong. They're just lower in vibration. And I desire higher vibration. So I just consciously focus on the higher things in a realistic way. So I notice that I'm actually experiencing those higher things increasing. So it's not wishful thinking, it's actually creating it, participating in your life, knowing how the creation works. And for me, because I'm a higher self channel, a lot of it is learning how to function in this higher mind level. So sometimes when I explain things, it sounds very hands-on and practical. It is hands-on, but it's not always my human mind that's doing it. For myself, oftentimes I'm in this expanded state, being that witnessing consciousness. So the expression of the higher self flows through me, of my higher mind flows through me. But I'm still following everything I'm saying about, but it comes from not the analytical human mind that tries to control it. It comes more from this flowing wisdom, creative energy place.
Wow, I really love that. About everything's God, and it's true.
Yeah.
Everything's God, and nothing is bad or wrong.
No.
Or everything is what it is.
Yeah.
Everything is in place. Everything. It's so difficult. Even for me, sometimes it's so difficult to understand that, because I am the first one who say that everything's perfect and everything is what it is. Even sometimes me, I get like like confused in some moments when I
Yeah,
feel
that's okay.
sadness, or
Yeah.
when I
Hey,
feel
just remind
sadness,
yourself.
or I feel, it's the same. And then I
Yeah.
say, then you always have to try to get back to that center and say, you get back to the center and say, you just here to experience this now and here. You experience this life with this beautiful body that we have, with everything what we have around us. I mean, we've got so many gifts every single day. I used to say that to the people, just be thankful for what you have, and your lists will be illimited. You will see every single drop from the rain is like a gift. You don't see it as a gift because you think it's normal, but you know, a little food that make your mom. I mean, it's normal. No, it's not normal, because there's loads of people that don't have moms, they don't have dads, they don't have sisters, they don't have family. So what is normal? What is not normal? It's so personal.
Yeah, it really is. And when you have gratitude for your reality, it opens up a whole new relationship. You
Absolutely.
love life, you feel appreciative for everything, and you're happier to be around. You express more love in all your interactions. Yeah, we should remind ourselves how amazing this gift of life is, and how it's truly a miracle. We can't understand how we got here. We can't understand how it's all happening. So life is a miracle, and that opens us up to this real heart-centered place of appreciation.
It's true what you say. We don't remember how we got here.
No, it's so big. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really funny. It's marvelous. Really, it's so it's absolutely beautiful. In my channel, I have like a theme gratitude meditation. Who's so cute, Then I mean, you just go to Mother Earth, and you take some, you talk to her, to that earth. I mean, it's really beautiful. So I would invite everybody to go and have a look. A little bit lower on the channel, you have an esteemed gratitude meditation, which is really lovely. If you do that for 21 days without stopping, you will feel anyway. It's impossible if your energy is not changing. The energy with all these gratitude meditation, I've got also a big one in Spanish. I mean, it just moves your whole energetic fields. It just moves. It's really absolutely fantastic. It's really cute.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Gratitude is one of the most powerful energies to work with. Yeah. And doing something repeatedly definitely creates a lot of good changes.
Yeah. Okay. Now we go to the next question. We're going to talk about timelines. Because about what we're talking about, we could talk hours, Lincoln, isn't it? This is so interesting what we were just talking about before, because it's about the daily life, our daily life, what happens every single day to every single person.
Yeah.
I know you talk about loads and loads of things in your own videos, also in the circles. So there's loads of teachings there. You give also so many free teachings. I think so wonderful. That's so fantastic. This is it's like your connection, your greatness to be here and offering so much cosmic work just free. I think it's really marvelous.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love it. I love what I do. And yeah, it just feels really good to give away what you love for free. Then it keeps growing and multiplying. So over all the years of putting out the free videos, I have a wonderful group of people that's gathered around as an audience, and they love the videos and they do the practices, and they've really experienced a lot of benefit in their lives from that exposure to the higher self teachings. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to talk about timelines now. What is a timeline? What is a timeline, and how many timelines have each person? Do we have the same amount of timelines?
Well, I mean, timelines are tricky to talk about because it's a word, and it's a very broad word that I feel people define in lots of different ways. So I'm going to talk about it how I understand it through my own personal experience, which might be different than some of the other metaphysical ways of talking about timelines that are more abstract. So for myself, every thought you have is essentially creating the universe in one direction. And every vibration you feel, every emotion you feel is also creating the universe in that direction. So you can think about it like this. If I have a flashlight, like a torch, and I can change the color of light that shines out of it. So I twist the tip of the torch and it becomes blue, then red, then green, then purple, then yellow, right? And I'm standing in front of a white wall. Whatever I express as the color of light from the torch or the flashlight, that then paints the whole wall with that color. So I'm making the room, I'm making my environment the color I'm choosing. If I continue to shine the same color, then the room's going to stay the same color on the walls. If my flashlight's shining purple, the walls are going to stay purple. So every thought I have is telling the universe what to be. Every emotion I have is telling the universe what to be. I also have these desires, and the desire is what creates the change. So I have a desire for what I want my life to be. And as long as I keep honoring that desire, I will think and feel in ways that are taking me down that timeline. So my goal is to have a certain experience, right? Like say I want $1 million, for example. If my goal is to have $1 million, my thoughts and my emotions, my words and my actions are going to take me to that $1 million reality. As long as I can stay focused on it and keep creating with it, I will get there. Now, the challenge that we have is, in addition to that desire to fulfill the goal of that timeline, I also have resistance to fulfilling that timeline. I have thoughts of unworthiness, maybe. I want $1 million, but I feel I don't deserve it. Or maybe I have fear of having that reality manifest. If I get $1 million, people are going to think differently of me. My neighbors aren't going to like me. My family's not going to treat me the same. So for every timeline that we're moving down, we have a desire, but we also have resistance inside ourselves towards it. And that's why we procrastinate, deny things, avoid things, or sabotage ourselves, because a part of our mind doesn't want the end result, because the end result means suffering in some way. So my desire thinks the end result, $1 million, means happiness. But another part of my mind is conditioned to believe if I get $1 million, I'm going to suffer. People aren't going to like me, bad things are going to happen. I'm going to have to pay half of it in taxes. There's all these emotional resistances that we can find towards our outcomes.
And we always sabotage ourselves. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we have these resistances because if I didn't have any resistance, I would already be experiencing what I wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Manifesting just on the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And the universe is made of these attractions and resistances. So it's natural. We don't shame them, but we cultivate more attractive qualities, more supportive qualities, and we reduce the resistant qualities. And then we take it to our goals a lot easier. Now, along the journey of completing this process, you're going to realize where your resistances are at. And maybe before you didn't notice that. Maybe you weren't aware that you are sabotaging yourself in many areas of your life because you feel unworthy. But only by consciously trying to reach the goal of that timeline can you awaken and find that low self-worth part of yourself and then work on it, correct it, and change it. So for me, timelines are basically just desires being played out in the world. And we reach the goal of that timeline, we succeed in that timeline when our attraction is greater than our resistance. Now, the more attraction we have to resistance, the faster we travel. The more resistance we have, the smaller the difference. So the less we travel, the less fast we travel. So if I can reduce my resistance and keep my desire, strengthen my desire even, then I'll reach my goal in the fastest of ways. Now, when we take that personal timeline example of how it all works, we look at our own lives and see I have many different desires. So I'm actually creating down many timelines. I want to take my health in this direction. I want to take my finances in this direction. I want to maybe live in a certain place. So my lifestyle is a certain direction. These are all timelines. I'm trying to get myself to the future I see myself in. So I imagine I'm living by the ocean, or I imagine I'm physically fit. I lost a lot of weight, or I've gained some muscle, or something like that. So I see the timeline I want to go down. I see the future I want to be at. And in that area, I can get there. But I have to, again, make sure I have more attraction than resistance in that area. And if I want to happen faster, reduce the resistance, increase the attraction. And that's what all these techniques are. Yeah. Now the other thing, so we have two levels. One, how it works individually. Two, how that you have many timelines you're working on. But then the third is that the world has many timelines. So if you take all your personal desires and then you add them up with everyone else's personal desires, that's what's moving the world. So for example, in our world right now, there's a lot of people that want to be taken care of. And so as a result, they give power to other people to make their decisions for them and to provide for them. And if you look at like a government and its citizens that want to be taken care of, like children wanting to be parented, they give the government a lot of authority in their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But someone who wants to create their own life, they don't want to give their power to another person or another group of people as an authority figure. So we can look at the world and we can see the reason why the governments have so much power and the media has so much power and the corporations have so much power is because people have difficulty living their own creative lives. If I don't know what I want to look like in terms of the clothing I want to put on, I'm going to buy what the advertisers tell me to buy, right? If I don't believe that people will like me, I'm going to look and see what other people are doing and dress like them or think like them or act like them, right? If I don't believe I can do it myself or I have it within me, I will let the world tell me how to be. And that's like the world controlling me, but it's really just a choice. Nothing controls us. We just choose to agree with something. We say like, oh, you're controlling me. It's like, no, you chose to agree with me. Maybe you didn't want to agree with me, but a part of you did. And that's why that part won in the end. So we don't really ever lose our power. We just agree with things that we don't want necessarily, but we ultimately do want it because you can only make the choice that you feel is best. You cannot make a choice that you don't think is best. Sometimes the fear of punishment is greater than the desire. And so we do things we don't want to do because we're afraid of being separated, being isolated from society, being punished in some way. But it's impossible for a human being to make a decision that they don't want. We're always making our best decisions. And if we're thinking that we're not, we think we're overpowered or being controlled, it's that we don't understand the decision-making process well enough. We're really not doing our best job within ourselves. We're not awakened at that level to see how the mind works and reality works. So with timelines, the whole world is showing us the mass consciousness and all the desires and all the resistances of the mass consciousness. So we can't think the world is unfair or the world's bad or wrong, or that the world's been hijacked by aliens. It's like, it's our collective creation. Yeah, we're sharing the dream. We're creating the dream. And the more I watch myself, the more I realize I'm creating the dream. I need to choose what it is that I'm doing consciously. And that shapes my life. And the more other people do it, the more the whole world changes in that direction. So I'm a big, big supporter of personal empowerment, of free will, and of recognizing we're the creators of our realities. But look around the world, a lot of people don't believe it. A lot of people think I'm powerless. I can't do it. So no, you always have a choice. It may be a difficult situation, but you're still free when you're in that situation.
Always. We always have the choice.
Yeah. Definitely. And even if we look at the past, some people would say like, well, Lincoln, how could you say that? Because horrible things happened, like with World War II and Nazi Germany, they captured all these people and put them in these concentration camps. How could you say someone wanted that? And I'll say, well, they didn't want that experience necessarily, but the way that experience happened was because they were wanting it. So like right now in the world, for example, we're seeing things happen, timelines happen. We are wanting them to happen. we're wanting them to happen because we're always doing what it is we want. So maybe I'm afraid and I want to be liked by other people, so I don't speak up. So I want to be liked more than I want to change what's happening. So I'm actually supporting the creation of what's happening. I'm wanting it to happen because I want to be liked. I'm afraid of being separated. And so I don't disagree.
You don't speak up.
Yeah,
Like
you don't
speak up.
Yeah.
You are on that side, of course.
Yeah. So we get ourselves in these difficult situations, even in our relationships or in jobs that we dislike, because we're not aware of how the choices that we're making are taking us there. We're not aware of it yet. And the more aware we become of that, the more empowered we become. But also the more aware we become of being creators, the more powerful we become. Because sometimes people can see exactly what's happening, but they don't believe they have the power to change it. If you can see not only the situation, but see yourself, who are you? You're a creator. If you can see that, then you'll realize you don't have to compromise. You don't have to be afraid of separation. Everything's united. You don't have to be afraid of separation. We realize all these things that then allow us to create a better life for ourselves and also for the world. So a lot of what's happening in the world is based on fear. We're afraid of being rejected, afraid of separation. It's the whole social shaming, cancel culture. Like you said, your YouTube channel had been canceled a few times because of the content you put up. Some people know that that's happening, so they're afraid to live in the truth of what they're perceiving. They're afraid to talk about the things that are right in front of us. But eventually wake up to a certain point to realize that I'm not afraid. And I can be with the truth because I see where hiding the truth and deception and lies will take me. And that might not be a future that I want.
Exactly. So with the collective energy, what they do really, the universe takes like an average from this collective energy.
Yeah.
And that's why things are happening.
Yeah. And the more people wake up right now and see the truth and understand their creators and seek love and unity and not fear, the more we live in that understanding, the more we shift the balance of the whole world, and all the wars and the suffering and the criminal activity, all of that goes away. But we can't deny it. We can't hide from it, like the parts of ourselves. When we notice that there's rotten parts of ourselves, right, we have to be willing to be responsible for them and own them and say, yeah, this is happening in the world. This is happening inside of my mind. How can I accept it? Realize it's not bad or wrong, but it is going to cause suffering. Like, it's a part of life. It serves a purpose. So I don't reject it, but I choose something higher. I don't fight with it, but I choose something higher. It's like the idea that we can remove the wars from the planet by creating peace and love. So, a number of decades ago in the 1960s, there's this big free love movement and like no more war, only peace and love. And it was a vibrational understanding that when we're in a higher energy, we can shift the planet in a greater way. And we don't have to fight in order to change the world. We can do it vibrationally. And it worked in a lot of ways, but then it stopped there in certain places. It kept evolving, but it also stopped there. It could have kept growing and could have done more purification. But again, the human reality is a battle of light and dark, so you don't ever know if it's ever going to finish. Might just be why we come here.
Exactly. That's why we're here, to move it around.
Yeah, wake up with all the contrast.
Yes, exactly.